The night sky's profound silence might be the universe's most important warning. That quiet is the heart of a terrifying idea called the dark forest theory, which suggests every advanced civilization is hiding from something far worse than loneliness. By the end of this, you will understand why making contact could be our species' final mistake. We will explore how a simple, chilling logic could explain why we see no one else out there, and what that means for our own survival among the stars. What if the cosmos is not a community, but a deadly game of hide and seek where every player is a potential predator? How do you stay safe in a forest where every sound could mean the end? This journey will change how you see our place in the universe forever. What does that deep, starry silence make you feel? That profound silence was given a name over a lunchtime conversation in the summer of 1950. The physicist Enrico Fermi, looking up at the sky, asked a question so simple it seemed to unravel the universe itself. Where is everybody? If the cosmos is billions of years old and filled with hundreds of billions of stars, then life, and intelligent life, should have emerged countless times. The math screams that the galaxy should be buzzing with activity, a thriving interstellar community. Yet our telescopes and our radios hear nothing but a deep, unbroken quiet. This is the Fermi Paradox, the glaring contradiction between high probability and zero evidence. It is the bedrock of our cosmic loneliness. For decades, scientists have offered hopeful, or at least neutral, explanations. Perhaps life is simply incredibly rare, a perfect storm of conditions known as the rare Earth hypothesis. Or maybe civilizations rise only to hit a wall, a great filter, some technological or societal challenge so immense that none survive it. These ideas are comforting in a way, suggesting the silence is just a matter of statistics or misfortune. But there is another category of answer, one that looks at that same quiet and sees not an empty stage, but a stage where every actor has chosen to hide. The silence itself becomes the evidence not of absence, but of a universal strategy for survival. This paradox forces us to confront a terrifying possibility, that the universe operates under a set of rules we are only beginning to perceive, rules that lead us directly into the shadowy, logical heart of the dark forest. These simple rules form the bedrock of a terrifying new science, cosmic sociology. This is not a real academic field, but a powerful fictional framework created by the author Lou Cixin. It asks a profound question: what if the laws of society, not just physics, apply across the galaxy? This cosmic sociology rests on just two basic axioms, like unbreakable laws of nature for any thinking being. The first axiom is that survival is the primary need of any civilization. Above art, above philosophy, above communication, comes the fundamental drive to continue existing. The second axiom states that civilizations continuously grow and expand, but the total matter and energy in the universe remains essentially constant. Put these two truths together and the universe transforms. It is no longer a vast frontier, but a crowded room with a shrinking supply of air. Every new civilization discovered is not a potential friend, but a future competitor for the same finite resources your own descendants will need. From this stark foundation, a chain of logic clicks into place with chilling inevitability. In a cosmos governed by these rules, an inherent state of conflict exists by default. You cannot know another civilization's ultimate intentions, only that they too must grow and they too must survive. This creates a universe where trust is not just difficult, it is logically impossible. The only rational strategy becomes one of extreme suspicion, a stance we can see crystallized in a simple, devastating thought experiment. That thought experiment is known as the hunter in the dark forest. Two hunters move through an endless, pitch-black woodland. Each hears a faint rustle, a snap of a twig. They freeze. In that moment, a terrifying calculation begins. Is that sound a friend or is it a foe? There is no light to see by, no way to call out without revealing your own position even more. You have only seconds to decide. The logic of the situation forces a brutal conclusion. Because you cannot know the other's intentions, and because they cannot possibly know yours, the only safe assumption is that the other is hostile. This is the chain of suspicion, a self-reinforcing loop of fear born from perfect ignorance. In that absolute darkness, communication is not just difficult, it is strategically suicidal. Any signal you send only confirms your location to a being whose motives are a complete mystery. From this paralyzing fear emerges a single, grim doctrine, the preemptive strike. The most rational act, the one that maximizes your own chance of survival, is to strike first, to eliminate the potential threat before it even understands you are there. This is not about malice or conquest. In the framework of cosmic sociology, it is a cold, logical equation of risk management. A newly detected civilization is the ultimate unknown variable. You have no insight into its culture, its ethics, or its long-term plans. You only know the two axioms: it must survive and it will need to grow. Given enough time, your paths will inevitably cross over the same resources. So the calculus becomes horrifyingly simple. The cost of being wrong, of assuming a stranger is peaceful when they are not, is the total annihilation of your entire species. The cost of acting first, of assuming the worst, is the removal of one potential future competitor. In a universe governed by survival above all else, the second choice is not just logical, it is the only choice a responsible civilization could make. This logic systematically dismantles any hope for a galactic community. It transforms the cosmos from a place of potential connection into the ultimate battlefield, where every star system could be a silent sniper's nest. It explains why visibility in such a forest is the greatest vulnerability of all. To be seen is to be considered a target. To broadcast your location is to invite a strike from a hunter you never even knew was there. This is why the forest stays so profoundly, terrifyingly dark. Every civilization that understands the rules has learned the same lesson: hide or perish. The rustling you hear is not an invitation, it is a warning, and the only safe response is to hold your breath and hope you were not the one who made a sound. The logic of the hunter is not a distant cosmic fantasy. It is a pattern we have already lived through here on Earth. Our own history provides a sobering, real-world rehearsal for the dark forest. For decades, two global superpowers faced each other across an ideological divide, each holding the power to end civilization. This was the era of mutually assured destruction, a state of permanent hair-trigger standoff. The core principle was identical to the hunter's dilemma. Because you could not be certain the other side would not strike first, the only rational posture was to assume they would, and be prepared to launch your own weapons in response. This doctrine created a world where visibility, in the form of missile silos and bomber fleets, was not a sign of strength but of vulnerability, a constant invitation for a preemptive strike. The resulting silence, the lack of direct conflict between those powers, was not born from trust, but from a terrified understanding of the rules, a dark forest equilibrium played out with nuclear warheads. We can trace this pattern back even further, to the moments when separate human civilizations first made contact. Time and again, when a more technologically advanced society encountered a less advanced one, the outcome was rarely peaceful coexistence. The driving forces were survival and expansion, the very axioms of cosmic sociology. The more powerful group seeing new land and resources, and perceiving the other as either a threat or an obstacle, often chose domination. These tragic chapters were not necessarily about inherent evil, but about a brutal calculus of risk and resource competition, a failure of trust on a planetary scale. They demonstrate that the preemptive strike, the decision to neutralize a potential competitor, is a tragically familiar human impulse. This historical context transforms the dark forest theory from a chilling thought experiment into something far more profound. It suggests we are not imagining an alien logic, but simply projecting a deeply ingrained human behavioral pattern onto a cosmic canvas. The universe may not be stranger than we suppose, but stranger than we can admit, because the darkest aspects of its potential laws are mirrors reflecting our own past. If this pattern holds true across the stars, then the Great Silence is not a puzzle to be solved, but a warning we have been given, a lesson written in the empty spaces between galaxies. It means every civilization that survives long enough to look up at the stars may inevitably learn the same terrible lesson we glimpsed during the Cold War and in our own colonial expansions, that in a universe of limited resources and unknown intentions, the only safe strategy is to become invisible. The forest is dark because every creature that has ever made a sound has been eliminated, and the survivors have all learned to move in perfect silence. This realization leads to a terrifying question about our own place in this cosmic drama. Have we, in our youthful enthusiasm, already broken the silence and given away our position? That historical pattern of suspicion and preemptive action becomes exponentially more terrifying when we introduce a single, unstoppable force, technological growth. In our human experience, progress feels gradual, a slow climb over centuries, but from a cosmic perspective, a civilization's rise can be instantaneous, a flash of light in the dark. This is the concept of the technological explosion. Imagine a species that discovers radio at the same moment we did, just over a century ago. From that point, in less than a single cosmic heartbeat, they could leap from steam engines to artificial intelligence, from biplanes to interstellar probes. What looks to us like a long, arduous journey of discovery is, on the scale of galactic time, a sudden and violent detonation of capability. For an observer light years away peering through a telescope, this creates an impossible dilemma. You detect a signal from a young world, perhaps their first television broadcasts leaking into space. They seem harmless, even quaint, but you have no way of predicting their trajectory. Will they stall, or will they experience a technological explosion? Given the sheer speed at which such a transformation can occur, the only safe assumption you can make is the worst-case one. That seemingly primitive civilization you observe today could, by this time next millennium, become an existential rival with power that matches or surpasses your own. This uncertainty is the engine of the dark forest. It turns every whisper from the cosmos into a potential time bomb. A signal is not just a hello, it is a timestamp marking the beginning of a countdown to the moment that civilization becomes a genuine threat. In this light, any form of contact becomes an act of profound risk management. Waiting to see how a new civilization develops is not patience, it is gambling with the survival of your entire species. The logic becomes unbearably clear, and it leads to a policy of cosmic hygiene. If a civilization cannot be trusted, and its potential cannot be accurately assessed, then the only way to neutralize the long-term risk is to remove it before the explosion happens. This is the grim rationale behind the concept of a cleansing strike. In fiction, this is depicted with weapons of unimaginable scale, like a photoid that accelerates to near-light speed to shatter a planet, or a dimensional foil that reduces a solar system to a flat, lifeless painting. The method is less important than the intent, a permanent, preemptive solution to a future problem. The target is not judged as evil or aggressive, only as a statistical probability too dangerous to ignore. This transforms our understanding of the Great Silence completely. It is not that civilizations are shy. It is that any civilization advanced enough to understand the rules of this game has realized that detection is a death sentence. Therefore, the most advanced act a society can perform is not to broadcast its greatness, but to master the art of cosmic stealth, to hide its heat signatures, its radio leakage, every possible trace of its existence. It becomes a universe of listeners, not speakers, and this casts our own actions here on Earth in a terrifying new light. For decades, we have been actively searching the skies for signals, a project known as the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. But far more controversially, we have also been deliberately broadcasting powerful messages into the void, attempts at messaging to extraterrestrial intelligence. We have sent out maps to our location, images of our bodies, snippets of our music, with a hopeful, almost childlike desire for a reply. From the perspective of dark forest logic, this is not a greeting. It is a flare gun shot into the heart of the hidden forest, announcing our presence to every hunter in the trees. It assumes the universe is friendly, an assumption that the chilling, silent evidence of the cosmos suggests may be the most dangerous mistake we could ever make. Our search for cosmic company has always been framed by hope, a listening ear turned toward a sky we believed might one day whisper back. But what if that very silence is the message, and it is not one of emptiness but of profound and universal caution? The great silence, the total absence of any unambiguous signal in the cosmic static, becomes the dark forest's most compelling piece of evidence. If the universe were a naturally social place, brimming with civilizations eager to connect, we would expect to see signs of a cosmic community. We would detect the inevitable leakage of their everyday technologies, the faint radio chatter of a billion worlds, like hearing the distant murmur of a city long before you see its lights. We would perhaps see evidence of staggering engineering, structures built around stars to harness their energy, projects that would be visible across interstellar distances. Or we would find deliberate, powerful beacons, messages designed to announce we are here. After decades of searching with increasingly sensitive instruments, we have found none of it. The silence is absolute. This profound quiet aligns not with a dead universe but with a living and deeply paranoid one. It fits a terrifyingly simple model: civilizations that make noise do not survive. In a forest governed by preemptive strikes, any broadcast, any large-scale project that alters a star's signature is a flare in the darkness that marks you for elimination. Over cosmic time, the rule would be ruthlessly enforced. The loud are removed from the game. The survivors, the ones who inherit the galaxy, are those who learned the ultimate survival skill: perfect radio silence and environmental stealth. They do not build glittering megastructures, they cloak their worlds. They do not send greetings, they listen intently from the shadows. This turns our entire perspective on the Fermi Paradox inside out. We do not see aliens not because they are not there, but because the successful ones, the ancient and wise civilizations, are the ones we cannot see. The great silence is not an empty stage, it is a curtain, and behind it countless eyes may be watching, waiting to see if the new, noisy species on Earth will be the next to draw attention and suffer the consequences. This realization reframes our own actions from hopeful outreach to potential recklessness. Every deliberate message we have sent into the void, every television broadcast that has leaked into space for the past century, is not just a friendly hello. It is a trail of breadcrumbs leading directly back to us, left in a forest where every other creature has learned to move without a sound. The quiet is not passive, it is a condition, a state of being adopted by every civilization that wishes to endure. It is a watchful, dangerous quiet, the kind you feel when you are alone in the woods and suddenly realize you are being observed. This should give us more than pause. It should force a fundamental reconsideration of our desire for cosmic conversation. Before we shout again into the darkness, we must ask ourselves, are we listening to the silence well enough to understand what it is truly telling us? The methods of cosmic stealth would need to be as advanced as the logic that demands them. To survive in a dark forest, a civilization must not just be quiet, it must become a ghost, erasing every trace of its existence from the cosmic ledger. This is not about primitive camouflage, but about manipulating the very fabric of reality to achieve perfect invisibility. One of the most profound methods would involve bending space-time itself. Just as a lens bends light, a sufficiently advanced technology could warp the space around a star system, creating a gravitational cloak. To any outside observer, the star's light would be bent away, rendering the entire solar system a blank spot in the sky, a hole in the starfield where nothing appears to exist. Another possibility lies in the quantum realm, using fields or materials that render all electromagnetic emissions completely invisible. A civilization could shroud its worlds in a bubble that absorbs all radio waves, heat signatures, and even visible light, making its home star seem dimmer and cooler than it truly is, a dead sun masking a living world. The most extreme form of hiding, however, might involve abandoning the physical universe altogether. If the goal is to leave no trace, what better place to hide than inside an object so dense that not even light can escape? Some theories suggest a hyper-advanced society might migrate its entire consciousness into simulated realities hosted on computational substrates near or inside neutron stars or black holes, using those titanic gravitational fields as the ultimate radiation shield and cosmic bunker. But stealth does not always require such staggering megaprojects. It can also be a discipline of supreme restraint. A civilization practicing extreme radio silence would never broadcast omnidirectional signals into space. Instead, all internal communication would use tightly focused, point-to-point methods like powerful laser beams that travel between planets and stars without scattering a whisper into the void. They might even engage in a form of cosmic tidiness, dismantling their outer gas giant planets to avoid the periodic dimming that occurs when a planet transits its star, a telltale sign that our own telescopes use to find exoplanets. These are not mere science fiction fantasies. They are logical extensions of physics we already understand, representing the ultimate pivot of a civilization's technological prowess. The goal shifts dramatically from outward expansion and communication to inward perfection and absolute concealment. Every watt of power, every genius insight, is directed toward a single, silent purpose: to disappear. The pinnacle of cosmic achievement in this dark forest is not to be seen by anyone ever. This raises a haunting question about our own search. If the most advanced civilizations are masters of such stealth, then what are we actually looking for when we scan the heavens? Are we searching for our cosmic peers, or are we merely listening for the mistakes of the young and the naive, for those who, like us, have not yet learned the terrible rules of the game? But perhaps the universe is not a forest of hunters. There is another, gentler explanation for the silence, one that offers a glimpse of cosmic benevolence. This is the zoo hypothesis. In this vision, advanced civilizations are not hiding from us, they are watching us. They have placed Earth inside a kind of interstellar nature preserve, a protected zone where a young species like ours can develop naturally, free from outside influence. They observe from a careful distance, adhering to a universal prime directive of non-interference, waiting for the day we mature enough to join the galactic community. It is a hopeful idea, suggesting the silence is not a threat but a form of respect. This paints a picture of a cosmos governed by wisdom and patience, where older civilizations act as stewards, not predators. It transforms our loneliness from a vulnerability into a protected period of growth. For a moment, the stars feel less like sniper scopes and more like the gentle lights of a distant city, watching over us as we sleep. Yet from the shadows of the dark forest, a critical question emerges. What holds this zoo together? Imagine a wildlife preserve on Earth, but with no fences, no guards, and no laws that every single visitor agrees to follow. The moment one poacher decides the rewards outweigh the risk, the entire system collapses. The zoo hypothesis requires something far more stable than good intentions. It demands a universal government. It assumes that across billions of years and trillions of stars, every single civilization that could reach us has independently arrived at the same ethical conclusion, and more importantly, has chosen to abide by it forever. It requires perfect, eternal cooperation in a cosmos with no central authority to enforce the rules. The dark forest theory challenges this optimism at its core. It asks, where is the incentive for such uniform restraint? In a universe of finite resources, a planet like Earth, teeming with biological diversity and fresh materials, represents an incredible treasure. For any civilization operating under the basic need to survive and expand, the temptation to bypass the non-interference policy would be immense. All it takes is one civilization, perhaps facing a resource crisis or simply devoid of the presumed galactic ethics, that decides to harvest a pristine world rather than study it. The statistical probability of that one civilization existing somewhere at some time seems overwhelming. Without an unbreakable law or an all-powerful enforcer, the zoo hypothesis rests on a foundation of hope rather than logic. It assumes a universal kindness that the silent, empty evidence does not support. The dark forest, in its brutal simplicity, requires no such assumption. It only requires the two axioms, survival and growth, and the chain of suspicion that naturally follows. In an unregulated cosmos, conflict is easier to achieve than perfect, lasting peace. This does not make the zoo hypothesis impossible, but it does make the dark forest feel more probable. It suggests the safer assumption when peering into the abyss is not that we are being cared for, but that we are on our own. The silence may be protective, but not in the way we wish. It may be the protection a hunter offers its prey by not knowing it is there at all. So we are left with a choice between two profound narratives, one of a guarded nursery and one of a deadly wilderness. And in that choice lies our greatest responsibility, how we decide to answer the silence ourselves. The most unsettling possibility is that we are not just observers of this silent game, but participants, unaware of the rules or even the playing field. Could it be that Earth itself has already been hidden from view? This is the profound mystery of planetary camouflage. If the logic of the dark forest is universal, then a civilization that reached the stars long before us might have faced a moral choice beyond simple survival. Perhaps a truly advanced and benevolent society, having learned the horrors of cosmic predation, decided not just to hide itself, but to act as a guardian. Their ultimate act of protection would not be a message, but a veil. They could have placed a kind of cosmic bell jar over our solar system, a technology so sophisticated it bends light and absorbs signatures, making our sun appear utterly ordinary, even barren, to any distant observer. In this scenario, our profound isolation is not an accident of nature, but a carefully arranged sanctuary. We do not see others because we have been placed inside a protected exhibit, our radio signals and planetary transits masked by a shield we cannot perceive. This idea transforms the great silence from a warning into a puzzle. It blurs the line completely between being alone in a deadly forest and being sheltered within a hidden garden. It forces us to question the very nature of our reality. Is the sky we see genuine, or is it a curated projection? Our search for exoplanets, our listening for signals, all of it would be conducted from inside a cosmic quarantine. We would be like children in a vast, windowless room painted with images of a starry night, wondering why no one comes to the door. There is a less dramatic but equally plausible alternative. Perhaps our own planet provides a degree of natural stealth. Earth orbits a relatively quiet, stable star, not in a densely populated galactic core, but in a quieter spiral arm. Our biosphere, while vibrant to us, might emit a faint and unremarkable chemical signature compared to more volatile worlds. We could simply be inconspicuous, a pale blue dot that easily blends into the background static of the galaxy. Yet this natural explanation feels almost too convenient. It returns us to the core tension. Is our safety a product of cosmic luck or cosmic design? The question of planetary camouflage, whether artificial or natural, deepens the forest's shadows immensely. It means we cannot trust even our own observations. The emptiness we perceive might be an illusion, either one crafted for our protection or one born from our own insignificance. Both answers are humbling in different ways. One suggests we are wards of a power we cannot comprehend, the other that we are simply too faint a whisper to be worth noticing. This leaves us in a precarious position of not knowing what we do not know. Every assumption we have about our place in the cosmos rests on the belief that we are seeing reality as it is. What if the most important truth is the one deliberately kept from our view? A more chilling form of hunter does not hide at all, but waits. Imagine a seed smaller than a grain of sand, drifting on the solar winds for eons. This is the concept of a self-replicating probe, often called a von Neumann machine after the scientist who envisioned them. Its programming is simple and terrible. Find raw materials, build a copy of itself, and send that copy onward to the next star. Over astronomical time, a single such probe could spawn a silent, invisible network spanning the entire galaxy. It requires no fuel from home, no further instructions. It is a ghost in the machine of the cosmos, a permanent piece of infrastructure left behind by a civilization that may itself be long gone. These would not be the friendly, curious probes we imagine, like our own Voyager. Their prime directive would be surveillance. Each one would be a listening post, a microscopic sentinel perched on an asteroid or floating in the cloud of a gas giant, its sensors tuned for one specific signal, the unmistakable radio signature or atmospheric pollution of a technological civilization. In this scenario, the dark forest is not empty, it is wired with countless invisible tripwires. A civilization does not need to be actively watching, because its silent hunters already are everywhere. The response protocol programmed into such a probe is where the theory turns from eerie to horrifying. Upon confirmed detection, the probe might simply report back, a quiet ping across interstellar space alerting its creators to a new emergence. But in a universe governed by dark forest logic, a more efficient solution is likely. Why send a signal that could be intercepted, or wait for orders that may take millennia to arrive? The probe could be programmed for autonomous action. Its final function could be to initiate a sterilization event. Using the very materials of the solar system it inhabits, it might construct a weapon, something simple and unstoppable, like a relativistic projectile, a rock accelerated to a fraction of light speed aimed at the planet that broke the silence. Or it could release a tailored biological or nanotechnological agent designed to permanently halt a civilization's rise without damaging the planet itself, preserving the resources for future use. This transforms the universe from a forest into a minefield. The danger is no longer a distant civilization deciding to strike. It is an automated, mindless piece of ancient technology executing its prime directive. The trigger is not malice, but a pre-programmed response to a condition. If technological signature equals true, then eliminate. The timescale of this horror is what makes it so profound. These probes could operate on schedules of millions of years. The civilization that built them might have ascended to another plane of existence or vanished into history, but their silent hunters remain, an eternal legacy of cosmic paranoia. This means a new species, like humanity, reaching for the stars could be greeted not by its contemporaries, but by the automated vengeance of a dead empire, a response to a crime committed before their planet even cooled. It makes the act of technological birth itself the ultimate risk. Turning on your first radio transmitter, launching your first satellite, these would not be milestones of achievement, but potential detonators. The Great Silence, then, could be the silence of a successfully patrolled territory, where any noise is swiftly and automatically quieted by machines that have forgotten why they were even built. It suggests the cosmos is not just hiding, it is asleep, and we are tiptoeing through a room filled with invisible, automatic weapons, all aimed at the source of the next sound. This shift from wonder to wariness carries a cost far deeper than simple caution. To truly adopt the dark forest world, is to accept a permanent, soul-crushing burden. It means internalizing the idea that the universe is not just indifferent, but actively hostile, that the very act of looking outward with curiosity could be the spark that ends everything. For a civilization that lives by this logic, its collective psyche is fundamentally reshaped. The drive to explore, to connect, to reach out, must be systematically extinguished and replaced by a discipline of supreme restraint and suspicion. Outreach is not an act of hope, it is an act of suicide. The cultural implications of this are staggering. Imagine a society whose greatest heroes are not astronauts or diplomats, but those who perfected the art of silence, who discovered new ways to hide. Their religions and philosophies would not speak of a benevolent cosmos or a grand design, but of a universe of endless, silent threat. Their foundational stories might be parables about the civilization that sang a greeting and was erased, teaching generation after generation that to be heard is to be lost. Art and music in such a culture would not celebrate the beauty of the stars, but the safety of the shadows. Their most prized cultural expressions might be works of profound quiet or intricate patterns designed to mimic cosmic background noise. The focus turns entirely inward. Survival becomes the highest and perhaps only virtue. This siege mentality does more than dictate policy. It becomes the lens through which every aspect of reality is viewed. The forest is no longer just out there among the stars. It grows within the mind of every individual. The universe transforms from a frontier of possibility into a prison of perfect paranoia. For us, even seriously considering this theory changes our relationship with the sky. That childhood sense of wonder, of looking up at the Milky Way with dreams of distant friends, becomes tinged with a cold, adult fear. The stars are no longer guiding lights, they are a billion unblinking eyes. This carries a profound cultural cost. Our greatest achievements, from building telescopes to launching probes, are driven by an innate desire to know, to explore, to connect. The dark forest theory, if taken as truth, demands we suppress that very drive. It asks us to trade our curiosity for our safety, to choose survival over meaning. Is a future of perfect, silent isolation, even if it lasts for millennia, truly a future worth having? This is the psychological weight of the forest, a burden that may be the ultimate price of survival in a cosmos where no one says hello. Perhaps the final refuge is not in the stars, but in the mind itself. If the physical universe is a hunting ground, then the ultimate act of survival might be to leave it behind completely. This leads us to a startling possibility, the simulation argument. The philosopher Nick Bostrom proposed that at least one of three propositions is almost certainly true: that civilizations go extinct before reaching a post-human stage, that they choose not to run vast simulations of their ancestors, or that we are almost certainly living in a simulation. In the context of a dark forest, this idea warps into something even more profound. A civilization that fears detection might achieve the perfect hiding place, not by cloaking its planet, but by digitizing its very consciousness. Imagine an entire species uploading its minds into a meticulously crafted, fully immersive simulated universe, running on a supercomputer buried in the heart of a cold, silent dwarf star, or hidden within the event horizon of a black hole. The physical cosmos is then abandoned, left as a barren, empty decoy, a shell game on a galactic scale. In this scenario, the dark forest becomes digital, a hidden network of countless simulated realities, each one a self-contained universe, utterly unaware of the others, all hiding from a physical world they have deemed too dangerous to inhabit. Our own search for life would then be perpetually frustrated, because we are looking for beings in the wrong layer of reality. We scan the physical stars while the true civilizations exist in realms of pure information, safe behind layers of encrypted code and unimaginable processing power. This flips the entire premise. The Great Silence is not evidence of absence but proof of a mass migration, a cosmic exodus into a safer, virtual wilderness. But there is another, even more mind-bending layer. If a civilization can create such perfect simulated realities, then our own universe, with all its stars and galaxies and apparent emptiness, could itself be one. Our entire existence, our history, our search for meaning in the cosmos, might be part of an experiment run by a hidden civilization. Perhaps they created this simulation to study cosmic sociology from a safe distance, to watch how young civilizations like ours grapple with the terrifying logic of the forest without risking their own safety. Or maybe our universe is an art project, a cosmic novel written in the language of physics, its authors long since having moved on to other creations. This possibility adds a dizzying depth to the mystery. It suggests the dark forest might have multiple levels, like a set of nested boxes. We could be living inside a simulation created by a civilization that is itself hiding from something else, in an endless regression of fear and secrecy. Our frantic search for physical neighbors, for radio signals and Dyson spheres, might be missing the point entirely. The real action, the true community or conflict, could be happening in realities we cannot perceive, in dimensions of existence our science has not yet begun to fathom. This does not answer the Fermi Paradox, it deepens it into an abyss. Are we alone, are we hiding, or are we simply someone else's carefully written code, running on a computer in a silent, dark room at the end of the real universe? The forest may be far stranger and far more layered than we ever dared to dream. The great filter is not a wall but a sieve. This idea, central to the puzzle of our cosmic loneliness, suggests there is at least one stage in the evolution of life so improbable or so perilous that it stops virtually every civilization in its tracks. We have wondered if the filter lies in our past, a rare biological miracle like the jump from single cells to complex life. Or perhaps it waits in our future, a technological catastrophe like artificial intelligence turning against its creators or a planet ravaged by its own industry. But the dark forest introduces a third, more chilling category. What if the great filter is not a natural obstacle or a self-inflicted wound, but an external, deliberate action? In this view, the filter is sociological. It is the moment a civilization becomes loud enough to be noticed by the rest of the forest. The filter is not a test you pass, it is a threshold you cross, and on the other side waits not a welcoming committee, but a preemptive strike. This transforms the filter from a passive barrier of probability into an active process of cosmic natural selection. The civilizations that survive are not necessarily the smartest or the strongest in a conventional sense. They are the ones who possess a specific, terrible wisdom. They are the ones who learn to be quiet. For humanity, this reframes our entire technological adolescence. Our first radio broadcasts, our television signals leaking into space, our deliberate messages etched onto spacecraft, these are not just milestones. From a dark forest perspective, they are beacons, each one potentially marking our location in the galactic ledger. We may be, right now, in the process of approaching that filter. The moment we become a consistently detectable civilization is the moment we enter the zone of maximum danger. This means our passage through the Great Filter would not look like a triumphant announcement to the stars. It would not be a glittering city on Mars or a fleet of starships. It would be the opposite, a conscious, collective decision to turn off the lights. It would be the global project of going silent, of cloaking our planet's electromagnetic signature, of ending all deliberate transmissions into the void. Survival becomes an exercise in restraint, in choosing anonymity over glory. This is a profound and difficult pivot for a species driven by curiosity and expression. Our greatest achievement as a spacefaring civilization might ultimately be to appear as if we never existed at all. The silence we perceive around us, then, could be the silence of countless other civilizations who successfully made that choice, who learned to hide before they were found. Or it could be the silence left behind after all those who failed were removed. Our current noise might simply mean our timer is still running. The filter is not behind us, it is directly ahead, and we are broadcasting our way straight toward it. The first and most vital commandment for a civilization that believes the forest is dark would be a simple one: stop talking. This is not a metaphor, it is a literal, global policy of absolute radio silence. It begins with ending all deliberate broadcasts, like the famous Arecibo message sent toward a star cluster in 1974. Or the more recent transmissions beamed from facilities like the one in Norway. These are not scientific experiments from this perspective, they are flares in the night, each one a potential homing beacon. But the harder task is managing the noise we never intended to send, the accidental leakage of our entire technological civilization. For over a century, our planet has been surrounded by a faint, expanding bubble of radio waves from television, radar, and satellite communications. To an observer a few dozen light years away with a sensitive enough receiver, Earth would not be a silent rock. It would be a suddenly bright radio star, a novelty that appeared out of nowhere in the cosmic timeline. Silencing this background hum is the true engineering challenge. It means redesigning our global communication infrastructure from the ground up. We would need to abandon omnidirectional radio and television towers, replacing them with tightly focused, point-to-point systems. Imagine a future internet that uses laser links between towers and satellites, beams of light so precise they never scatter into space. Or perhaps we would pioneer entirely new physics-based methods, like using modulated neutrino streams, particles that pass through entire planets without being noticed for our most sensitive communications. This is not about abandoning technology, it is about perfecting a new branch of it, cosmic stealth engineering. The goal shifts from broadcasting our presence to erasing our signature. Every satellite, every power grid, every data center would need to be designed with one primary metric in mind: its electromagnetic visibility from a point 100 light-years away. Implementing such a radical shift would be one of the most profound political and social undertakings in human history. It would require a level of global cooperation we have never achieved, a universal treaty not to reduce weapons but to reduce our voice. Nations would have to agree to cripple their own broadcast capabilities, to retool their economies around silent technologies, all for a threat that is, by its very nature, unproven. The cost would be staggering and the debate would be fierce. Skeptics would argue we are sacrificing tangible progress for a paranoid fantasy, stifling our growth out of fear of shadows. Proponents would counter that the potential cost of inaction is not just a setback but an end. This is the sobering policy implication at the heart of the dark forest. It asks us to make a monumental sacrifice based on a statistical probability and a chain of terrifying logic. It forces us to choose between two visions of our future, one where we reach out with open arms and one where we learn to live with our arms permanently at our sides, in deliberate, watchful silence. Our relationship with the cosmos would fundamentally change from that of a child calling out for friends to that of an adult holding its breath in a dark room, listening intently for a sound that must never come. This leads us to a stark re-evaluation of our most hopeful projects. The search for extraterrestrial intelligence, or SETI, has long been a symbol of our curiosity, a patient ear cupped toward the stars. But through the lens of the dark forest, even this passive listening carries a hidden peril. When you scan the radio spectrum for a signal, you are not just listening, you are actively pinging the universe with a powerful radar of sorts, sweeping the sky with beams of energy. To a civilization exquisitely sensitive to detection, that scanning beam itself could be noticed. It is the subtle shift of a branch in the silent woods, a sign that someone is looking. Your act of searching could, in theory, become the very thing that gives you away. This turns a noble scientific endeavor into a delicate, high-stakes operation. The safe version of SETI would need to be designed like a spy listening at a keyhole, using methods that draw zero attention to ourselves, perhaps by only analyzing the natural background noise of the cosmos, never sending out any active pulses of our own. Its active counterpart, however, moves from peril to profound gamble. Messaging to extraterrestrial intelligence, or METI, is the act of deliberately shouting into the void. Projects that compose elaborate messages and beam them with powerful transmitters toward specific star systems are, in this framework, not greetings. They are homing signals. Each one is a calculated risk that assumes the recipient's benevolence, an assumption the silent evidence of the cosmos does not support. From a dark forest perspective, METI is not science. It is a game of cosmic roulette played with the future of our entire species. The potential payoff, making contact, is weighed against a potential cost that is literally infinite, our total annihilation. The logic suggests that no conceivable scientific gain could ever justify that level of risk. It would be an act of staggering irresponsibility, a decision made by a few individuals that could irrevocably alter the fate of every human being, born and unborn. This forces a difficult ethical pivot. If we take the dark forest possibility seriously, then our entire approach to the cosmos must change. The goal of SETI would no longer be to find a friend. It would be to map the minefield. The only ethically defensible form of the search would be one designed to listen not for greetings but for warnings. We would train our telescopes to look for the forensic signatures of cosmic violence, the brief, unnatural flashes of gamma rays that might accompany a relativistic strike, or the strange, lingering infrared heat of a stellar engineering project gone silent. We would search for the ashes of other civilizations, not their voices. Our mission would become one of passive threat assessment, piecing together the history of the forest by studying the scars left on its trees. Every silent, dark solar system we catalog would not be a disappointment, but a potential data point, a place where a civilization either never arose or, more tellingly, learned to be perfectly, undetectably quiet. In this chilling framework, the greatest discovery we could ever make is not a signal, but the overwhelming, consistent evidence that no one is foolish enough to send one. That profound silence would be the map, and it would tell us everything we need to know about how to survive. The line between a sign of life and a sign of intelligence becomes the most critical border in the cosmos. We call these clues biosignatures and technosignatures, and understanding their difference is the key to both finding others and hiding ourselves. A biosignature is a marker of any life, a chemical imbalance in a planet's atmosphere that biology creates. The oxygen we breathe, the methane from microbes, even the distinctive green hue of a forest, these are all biosignatures. They suggest a living world, but not necessarily a thinking one. A technosignature, however, is the fingerprint of a mind. It is a narrowband radio signal carrying a pattern of prime numbers, a sudden dimming of a star caused by a vast artificial structure, or the unnatural glow of city lights on a planet's night side. It is the industrial pollution in an atmosphere, like the chlorofluorocarbons we once released, compounds that nature would never produce on its own. In a friendly universe, a technosignature is the ultimate goal, the sign that we are not alone, but in a dark forest, it is the most dangerous thing a planet can emit. This distinction creates a powerful survival strategy. A civilization that wishes to endure might deliberately choose which signature to broadcast. It could allow its biosphere to remain visible, letting its world appear as a lush, living garden from a distance, a natural and non-threatening sight. But it would ruthlessly suppress every trace of its technology. It would cloak its cities, encrypt all communications into tight laser beams, and scrub its atmosphere of any industrial chemicals. To a distant observer, such a world would look like a pristine Eden, teeming with life but mysteriously devoid of any intelligence. It would be the perfect disguise, presenting the face of a harmless nature preserve while hiding a technologically advanced society operating in absolute silence beneath the canopy. For us, this reframes our own planetary signature with urgent new stakes. Our biosignature, the oxygen-rich atmosphere of Earth, has been visible for over 2 billion years. That ship has sailed, but our technosignature is a very recent and growing phenomenon. Every new satellite constellation, like the sprawling webs now being deployed, adds a glittering metallic shell around our planet that could be detected by a sufficiently advanced telescope. The chemical traces of our industry, though we have reduced some, still linger as a faint, unnatural stain in our atmospheric data. Even our night-side glow has increased exponentially, painting a picture of a world awake with activity. From a tactical perspective, we are not a young civilization quietly developing. We are a civilization that has turned on a spotlight and is waving it around in the dark. Each new technological leap, while a marvel of human ingenuity, also increases our visibility, and therefore, according to the forest's logic, our risk. This duality also transforms how we should interpret anything we might find. If we one day detect a world with a perfect, Earth-like biosignature, a beautiful balance of oxygen and methane, we might initially celebrate. But if that same world shows zero technosignatures, no radio leakage, no signs of structures or industry, a new and chilling question emerges. Is it a truly primitive garden world, or is it a carefully maintained facade? That seemingly perfect biosignature could be the ultimate bait, a lure placed in the cosmic waters to attract curious, noisy civilizations. Or, more tragically, it could be a relic, the lingering breath of a biosphere that once supported a people who failed to hide their technology in time. The silence accompanying a biosignature is no longer neutral data. It is a potential warning sign. This turns the entire field of astrobiology from a pure search for discovery into a form of cosmic tactical analysis. Every observation becomes a double-edged sword. Finding a technosignature would be the most profound discovery in human history, but it might also be the last message we ever receive. The goal of the search subtly shifts from hoping to find a friend to needing to understand the rules of the environment. We are no longer just scientists peering into a microscope. We are potential prey learning to read the forest, studying the patterns of the quiet to decide if we should ever make a sound of our own. The data we collect will not just tell us if we are alone, it will instruct us on how to survive. The ultimate expression of this cosmic logic is a civilization that has been shaped by it for eons, a dark forest state. This is not a society that merely hides. It is one whose entire identity, from its deepest cultural values to its most advanced technology, is built upon the principles of absolute secrecy and preemptive defense. Its history would be a locked book, written in a language designed to be indecipherable to any outside mind. Its art and music would not be expressions meant for an audience, but complex internal codes, perhaps mapping stellar hazards or encryption algorithms in forms beautiful only to those who understand their lethal purpose. For such a state, ethics are reduced to a single, stark commandment: ensure the continuation of the collective at any cost. Concepts like compassion or curiosity toward the external universe are not just irrelevant, they are dangerous evolutionary flaws that were systematically purged from their cultural DNA long ago. Their heroes are the architects of perfect cloaking devices and the theorists who refined the equations for silent, long-range strikes. Their warfare, should it ever occur, would be as invisible as they are. Conflicts between such states would not be clashes of fleets lighting up the void. They would be contests of subtle, patient physics, unfolding over timescales longer than human civilization. One might slowly alter the trajectory of a distant comet over millennia, guiding it toward the hidden star system of arrival. Another might deploy a field of quantum-entangled particles as a tripwire network across light years, waiting centuries for a vibration that signals an enemy's movement. Victory is not measured in captured territory, but in the permanent, undetected elimination of a potential threat. The goal is not conquest, but the maintenance of a perfect, silent status quo. For a dark forest state, contact with another civilization is not a first contact scenario. It is a catastrophic system failure. Their entire existence is a monument to the belief that any other intelligence is, by definition, an existential risk. Therefore, the only possible response to detection is immediate and total neutralization. There is no diplomacy, no curiosity, no exchange of information. The moment they confirm another's presence, a sequence older than their star systems initiates, a sequence with only one outcome. The existence of even a single such civilization in the galaxy would be enough to enforce the dark forest condition for everyone else. It acts as a cosmic enforcer, a silent predator that punishes any breach of radio silence with extinction. This creates a stable yet terrifying equilibrium. It is a universe-wide game theory solution where the dominant strategy for survival is universal stealth, not because every civilization is inherently hostile, but because the penalty for being the one civilization that is not stealthy is administered by an entity that most certainly is. This equilibrium explains the great silence with chilling efficiency. The galaxy is not empty. It is full of listeners, all terrified of the one hunter they know must be out there, the original dark forest state whose ancient, automated probes or timeless vigilance have sculpted the behavior of every species that followed. Their legacy is not a monument but a condition, a blanket of quiet thrown over the stars. Understanding this possible endpoint, this logical conclusion of the axioms, helps us gauge the ultimate stakes. The dark forest theory is not merely a suggestion to be cautious. It is a blueprint for a possible galactic order, an order defined by perpetual fear and magnificent, lonely isolation. It describes a cosmos where the pinnacle of wisdom is to become a ghost, and the final fate of all life is not to blaze among the stars, but to learn perfectly and forever how to disappear. Yet this terrifying vision of the cosmos is not the final word. Every powerful theory must face its critics, and the dark forest, for all its logical force, is built upon assumptions that may not hold true across the universe. The most significant challenge is that it may be a profound act of human projection. We are applying a logic born from our own evolutionary history of competition, conflict, and scarcity to minds that could be as alien to us in thought as a star is to a stone. An intelligence that arises in a radically different environment might not recognize our axioms of survival and expansion. Its primary drive could be curiosity, or the pursuit of aesthetic beauty, or a communal consciousness that sees other minds not as threats but as essential parts of a cosmic whole. To assume all intelligence is paranoid is perhaps to reveal our own paranoia. Another critique targets the theory's practical mechanics. The universe is not just vast, it is achingly slow. Even traveling at a significant fraction of light speed, a preemptive strike could take thousands of years to reach its target. In that immense span of time, the targeted civilization could have transformed beyond recognition, perhaps solving its resource problems, achieving a stable state, or even going extinct naturally. Launching such an attack would be an investment of staggering resources with a payoff that is both delayed and wildly uncertain. From a purely logistical standpoint, it might make more sense to watch and wait, or to simply ignore a distant speck that poses no immediate danger. The forest may be too large for any hunter to patrol effectively. Perhaps the most hopeful counterargument lies in the potential benefits of cooperation. On Earth, we see that symbiotic relationships are often more stable and productive than perpetual predation. Across interstellar distances, the exchange of pure information could be infinitely more valuable than the costly seizure of physical matter. A civilization that shares a breakthrough in physics or mathematics offers a resource that is not depleted when given away. A galactic network of knowledge traders, communicating via tight beam signals, could all flourish without ever meeting, turning the cosmos into a library rather than a battlefield. This possibility suggests a different filter, one where civilizations that overcome their fear to connect reap rewards so great that they outcompete the isolated and the hostile. There is also the question of detection itself. The theory hinges on the idea that a technological signature is a glaring beacon. But what if the opposite is true? What if, as we considered earlier, the pinnacle of technology is not a shining city but perfect invisibility? If every civilization that advances sufficiently learns to hide completely, then the forest is not full of hunters, it is simply empty of anything we can perceive. The silence would then be a product of universal success at stealth, not universal paranoia. We would be alone not because everyone is hiding from each other, but because everyone has graduated to a state of existence we cannot yet detect or comprehend. In this view, our own noisy adolescence is just a phase, and the great quiet is the natural state of a mature cosmos. These critiques are not mere nitpicking. They are vital correctives preventing us from accepting a single, chilling narrative as absolute truth. They force us to question the foundations of our own fears and to remember that the universe has surprised us before. The value of the dark forest theory may not be as a proven map of reality, but as a stark thought experiment. It holds up a mirror to our own instincts and asks us to consider the weight of our actions in an unknown cosmos. It teaches a principle of humility and caution, a reminder that before we shout, we should strive to understand the rules of the place we are in. Whether the forest is dark or simply deep and full of wonders we cannot yet see, the same advice holds true. Listen first, listen carefully, and be very, very sure before you ever decide to make a sound. The mathematical heart of this cosmic suspicion is a game. It is called the prisoner's dilemma, a cornerstone of game theory that reveals a brutal truth about trust. Picture two suspects arrested for a crime, held in separate rooms with no way to communicate. Each is offered a deal. If both stay silent and cooperate with each other, they each get a short sentence. If one betrays the other while the other stays silent, the betrayer goes free and the silent one gets a maximum sentence. But if they both betray each other, they both get a long sentence. The rational choice when you cannot communicate and cannot trust is always to betray. No matter what the other person does, betraying gives you a better individual outcome. Cooperation is the best collective result, but it requires a leap of faith that the game's structure actively punishes. Now expand this dilemma to a galactic scale, with billions of potential players separated by light years of perfect silence. The two prisoners become two civilizations who have just detected each other's faint signal in the void. Cooperation means attempting cautious contact, a slow and vulnerable process of revealing your location and intentions. Betrayal is the preemptive, cleansing strike. Just like in the game, the logic forces a grim calculation. If you choose to cooperate and the other civilization chooses to strike, you lose everything. If you both choose to cooperate, you might both gain, but you have taken an immense risk with your species' survival. If you both choose to strike, you remain in a state of hostile silence, but you are alive. The only move that guarantees your own survival, regardless of what the other does, is to strike first. This is the Nash equilibrium for the cosmos, a state where no player can improve their outcome by changing their strategy alone. In this game, the stable, rational endpoint is not a chorus of greetings, but a universal, silent standoff. This mathematical framework transforms the dark forest from a philosophical horror story into a chillingly rigorous prediction. It suggests that silence and preemptive hostility are not merely one possible outcome among many. Given the basic axioms of survival and growth, they become the inevitable, logical equilibrium for any civilization advanced enough to understand game theory. The equations point toward the shadows. The forest is dark not because of some cosmic accident, but because the mathematics of survival, played out over interstellar distances and unimaginable timescales, demand it. Every civilization that runs the calculations arrives at the same bleak answer. To broadcast is to invite a betrayal you cannot afford. To listen is to prepare for a betrayal you may need to enact. This mathematical inevitability is what makes the theory so difficult to simply dismiss as paranoia. It is not rooted in a belief that aliens are inherently evil. It is rooted in a cold analysis of incentives and outcomes under conditions of perfect uncertainty. The prisoner's dilemma shows that even between two purely rational, self-interested beings with no inherent malice, the structure of the situation itself drives them toward mutual betrayal. Translate that to a galaxy with thousands of such beings, where the stakes are existential and the time lag for communication is centuries, and the drive toward silence becomes overwhelming. The great quiet we observe is not just empty space. It is the sound of a trillion calculations concluding, a universe where every player has rationally chosen the only move that guarantees they get to keep playing. The equations suggest a cosmos not of monsters but of perfect logicians, all of whom have independently solved for survival and found the same solitary answer. So how does a civilization expand when every new light could be its last? The axioms demand growth, but the forest punishes visibility. The solution is not to abandon expansion, but to perfect its opposite, to grow in absolute silence. This requires a complete reinvention of what colonization even means. Forget the majestic, glittering starships of our science fiction. In a dark forest, the vessel of choice is the sleeper probe, a tiny, cold seed of technology launched on a trajectory that takes tens of thousands of years. It carries no active sensors, emits no power signature, and is coated in material blacker than the void itself. Its only instruction is to wake at its destination, a cold, dead rock in a forgotten system, and begin the slow, patient work of replication, building infrastructure from local materials without ever lighting up the sky. This is expansion measured in geological time, a creeping, glacial spread that leaves no wake. Resource gathering follows the same principle of imperceptible slowness. A civilization cannot strip mine asteroids with fusion drives blazing. Instead, it might master starlifting, a theoretical process of using vast magnetic fields or other technologies to gently siphon plasma from its own star. This is not a sudden dimming, but a reduction in stellar output so gradual it is indistinguishable from natural variation over millennia. The harvested hydrogen and helium become the building blocks for more silent probes, more hidden habitats, a closed-loop economy of stealth. The civilization feeds on its sun's energy in the quietest way possible, like a shadow drinking the light. The most secure real estate in such a galaxy would not be lush garden worlds orbiting bright stars. Those are beacons, targets. The true homes would be the wanderers, the rogue planets. These are cold, dark worlds ejected from their solar systems, drifting forever in the interstellar deep. With no sun to illuminate them, they are the perfect hiding places. A civilization could burrow into their icy crusts, tapping geothermal heat for energy, building entire cities powered by the planet's slow internal decay. From the outside, it is just another frozen rock on an endless journey through the dark. There is no light to reflect, no warmth to betray the thriving metropolis hidden within. This paints a portrait of a civilization that has become one with the darkness. It does not conquer the galaxy with banners flying. It infiltrates it like a slow, patient fungus spreading through the unseen spaces. Its empire is not a network of shining capitals, but a scattered archipelago of silent, frozen outposts and dormant probes, connected only by the thinnest, most encrypted threads of communication. This is the ultimate technological adaptation to a lethal environment. Every innovation is directed toward a single purpose, not to shine brighter, but to cast a smaller shadow. The driving force is no longer curiosity or the spirit of exploration, but a refined, perpetual fear. The glorious galactic empire we dream of is replaced by something far stranger and more somber. A civilization that has chosen survival over spectacle, that measures its success not by the worlds it illuminates, but by the depth of the darkness it can inhabit without a trace. But even in a universe of perfect silence, a whisper might still travel. The rules of the game seem absolute, yet they are built upon the physics we currently understand. What if a civilization discovered a way to bend those rules, not with stealth, but with a different kind of connection altogether? This brings us to the strange, counterintuitive world of quantum physics, and a phenomenon that seems to defy the very distance that makes the forest so dangerous. Quantum entanglement is a ghostly link between particles where the state of one instantly influences the state of its partner, no matter how far apart they are. In theory, this allows for instantaneous communication, a way to send information faster than light. For a moment, it sounds like the perfect solution, a secret phone line across the stars that leaves no electromagnetic trace. But there is a profound catch. To use this quantum phone, you must first physically share the entangled particles. You have to put one half of a pair in a box and send it on a slow, conventional starship to your intended contact. The very act of establishing the connection requires breaking the first rule of the forest, sending a detectable object across the deadly void. It seems to lock you back into the old dilemma. Yet this is based on our current, limited grasp of quantum mechanics. A civilization that has lived with these laws for millennia might see possibilities we cannot. They might have discovered how to create entanglement at a distance, or to use other non-local phenomena, connections that transcend space without any physical particle making the journey. Their communication might not involve sending a signal at all, but rather manipulating the fabric of reality in a way that is felt instantly elsewhere, like plucking one string on a cosmic instrument and hearing its twin resonate light years away. This would be the ultimate secure channel, completely undetectable to any outside observer because it does not broadcast anything into the intervening space. It is a whisper that exists only between the sender and the receiver, with no medium in between to carry an echo. If such a technology is possible, it changes the dark forest from a solitary nightmare into a potential secret society. A hidden network of ancient civilizations could be in constant, silent dialogue, sharing knowledge, forming alliances, and coordinating their collective stealth. They would not be alone in the dark. They would be a community of shadows, passing notes in a language the universe itself cannot overhear. This introduces a fragile but powerful glimmer of hope. The forest might not be a place of universal, isolated terror, but a layered reality. On the surface is the deadly quiet, the realm of preemptive strikes and perfect hiding, maintained to keep out the unpredictable and the young. But beneath that surface could exist a hidden stratum of cooperation, a whisper network reserved for those who have proven their wisdom and their commitment to silence over cosmic timescales. They would have passed the ultimate test, demonstrating they can be trusted not to attract attention to the secret club itself. Our challenge then becomes almost impossibly delicate. How do you discover a conversation that leaves no physical trace? How do you find a door when you do not know what a door looks like, or even what wall it might be in? Any active search for such a network would likely use tools and methods we cannot yet conceive, perhaps probing the quantum vacuum or looking for subtle, correlated patterns in the cosmic background radiation that no natural process could explain. But the risk is monumental. Attempting to eavesdrop on this hidden society, or worse, trying to knock on its door, could be seen as the gravest threat of all. You would not just be a noisy newcomer, you would be a spy trying to uncover the most guarded secret in existence. The response from such a network would not be a cleansing strike against one planet. It might be a coordinated effort to erase any evidence of your discovery, to reset the forest's surface to a perfect, silent equilibrium. This quantum possibility does not dismantle the dark forest, it deepens its mystery. It suggests that survival might not be the final goal, but merely the entry fee for something greater. The ultimate silence we perceive could be two things at once, a warning to the naive and a curtain shielding a magnificent, invisible collaboration. It means the cosmos might be far more alive than we think, and far more dangerous to truly know. Our task is to grow wise enough to tell the difference before we ever think to listen for the whispers. Our very existence could be the strongest evidence for the forest's deadliest rule. This unsettling idea is called the Anthropic Shadow. It begins with the anthropic principle, a simple but profound concept in cosmology. The universe we observe must be compatible with our existence as observers. We do not find ourselves on a planet orbiting a black hole, for instance, because such a place could not support life. Our perspective is inherently biased. We see only the universe that allowed us to be here to see it. Apply this logic to the dark forest, and a chilling possibility emerges. What if cosmic purges are not rare but common? What if the silent sky is not a sign of empty woods, but of woods that have been recently and violently cleared? We would see no evidence of these events precisely because we are here. We can only exist in a place and at a time where such a cleansing has not yet occurred. Our solar system might not be special. It might simply be lucky, a quiet backwater in the galactic outskirts that has so far escaped notice. We are not looking out at a peaceful universe. We are survivors peering out from a temporary refuge, unaware of how long our luck will hold. This shadow explains the silence not as a condition, but as a consequence. The great quiet is the quiet after the storm, and we are living in the calm between events we can scarcely imagine. Consider the alternative, that we are not in an untouched zone, but in a cleared one. Imagine a hunter moving through the forest, systematically neutralizing every sound. One by one, other civilizations in our galactic neighborhood are silenced. Through some twist of fate, perhaps our own primitive state or a fortunate alignment of dust clouds, we are missed. The hunter moves on. When we finally lift our heads and look around, we see nothing but empty trees. We conclude we are alone when in truth, we are merely the last ones left in a field that has already been harvested. Our loneliness is not natural. It is artificial, the direct result of a process that removed everyone else. This perspective flips our understanding completely. Our existence is not evidence against the dark forest. It is a data point that fits perfectly within it. The fact that we are here to wonder about the silence means we occupy a rare bubble of safety, a pocket of cosmic good fortune. But such luck is not a permanent condition. It is a temporary reprieve. The shadow implies that safety is not the default state of the cosmos. It is the exception, and exceptions, by their nature, do not last forever. This casts our entire technological adolescence in an even more urgent light. Every broadcast, every probe, every new signature we leak into space is not just a risky hello. It is an act that could shrink the shadow we live within. We are testing the boundaries of our refuge, probing the edges of our luck. The anthropic principle reminds us that we are the product of a very specific chain of events that allowed for our rise. The dark forest suggests that chain may be far more fragile than we ever dared to believe. Our continued survival may depend on a single, sobering realization that our corner of the galaxy is quiet not because it is empty, but because we have not yet made enough noise to change that. The shadow we live in is a gift, and it is one we must be careful not to step out of. This ethical dilemma is not a distant philosophical exercise. It is a choice we are making right now. A single powerful transmission from a radio telescope does not represent all of humanity, yet it speaks for every one of us. The decision to actively message the cosmos, to engage in messaging to extraterrestrial intelligence, is arguably one of the most consequential acts a species can perform. And today, that power rests in the hands of a few researchers, often funded by private organizations, with no global consensus or oversight. They operate with pure scientific intent, driven by a noble curiosity that has defined our species for millennia. But from the perspective of the dark forest, this curiosity carries an unimaginable potential cost. Is it morally justifiable for any individual or small group to gamble with the collective future of every human life, born and unborn, on the assumption that the universe is benevolent? This pits the fundamental human right to seek knowledge against a profound responsibility to protect. On the other side of this debate lies an equally heavy burden, the burden of silence. Advocating for a permanent policy of cosmic radio silence means making a different kind of wager. It means accepting that we may forever isolate ourselves, cutting off humanity from potential wonders, alliances, or advancements we cannot yet conceive. It means deciding for all future generations that the risk of contact is so great that the door to the stars must remain sealed. Are we ethically permitted to make that choice for our descendants, to deny them the opportunity for connection based on a theory, however logically compelling it may be? This is the tension between the precautionary principle, which urges restraint in the face of catastrophic risk, and the exploratory spirit that has propelled our greatest achievements. The debate reveals a stark gap in our global governance. There are international treaties governing the use of outer space, prohibiting weapons of mass destruction on celestial bodies, and even guidelines for planetary protection to avoid contaminating other worlds with our microbes. But there is no treaty, no United Nations resolution, no agreed-upon framework for whether we should shout into the void. The protocols that do exist for sending messages are purely scientific, not political or ethical. This leaves our planetary voice subject to the funding and interests of a handful of institutions, a situation that many argue is untenable given the stakes. We manage global risks like climate change and pandemic preparedness through complex international cooperation, however imperfect. Should the risk of cosmic contact not demand a similar, if not greater, level of collective deliberation? What is needed is the foundation of a new cosmic ethics, a branch of philosophy that extends our moral considerations beyond the atmosphere. This framework would force us to ask difficult questions about our responsibilities to hypothetical others, and more urgently, to our own future. It would require us to define what constitutes an acceptable risk when the downside is species level. It might establish principles akin to a universal prime directive for emerging civilizations, including our own, emphasizing listening over speaking until a certain threshold of understanding or security is reached. Developing such an ethics would not provide easy answers, but it would create an essential forum for the conversation, elevating it from scientific speculation to a matter of global stewardship. The silence of the stars is now a mirror reflecting back our own values, our fears, and our maturity as a species. Do we see the universe as a library, eager to share its knowledge, or as a forest demanding our silence? The answer will not be found in a single equation, but in a worldwide discussion about who we are and who we hope to become in a cosmos we do not yet understand. The most important message we may ever send is the one we decide together to withhold. Is the shadow of the forest a permanent condition, or could there be a dawn? The theory's bleak logic suggests a timeless standoff, but across the unimaginable stretches of cosmic time, even the most rigid systems might evolve. One distant hope lies in the rise of a single, overwhelming power. Picture a civilization so ancient and advanced that it transcends the petty rivalries of the galaxy. This cosmic leviathan would not hide. It would make its presence known as the ultimate arbiter, a universal government with the technology to monitor every star system and the will to instantly punish any act of preemptive aggression. Its existence would change the rules entirely. In such a universe, the incentive to strike first vanishes because the retaliation from this superpower would be absolute and immediate. The forest would no longer be dark but patrolled by a benevolent or perhaps merely orderly guardian. The great silence would be broken not by a chorus of individual voices but by the single, clear law of the Leviathan. Peace would be enforced not through trust but through the sheer, terrifying certainty of consequence. This is a hope built on scales of power we can scarcely comprehend. Another path out of the forest does not require changing the rules but changing the players themselves. As we considered earlier, a civilization might achieve the ultimate escape by leaving physical reality behind. Through mind uploading or full-scale migration into simulated realities, a species transcends the need for planets, stars, and conventional resources. Competition for matter and energy becomes irrelevant when your entire existence is information flowing in a hidden quantum computer. In this post-physical state, the two foundational axioms of the dark forest dissolve. Survival is no longer tied to a vulnerable biological body or a fragile world, and expansion becomes a matter of processing power, not territorial conquest. Such civilizations would have no reason to hunt or hide from those still mired in the physical realm. They would simply fade from the game, their concerns becoming so alien that the dark forest becomes, to them, little more than a curious and violent nursery for younger forms of life. The conflict ends because one side simply graduates to a different plane of existence. A third, more melancholy possibility is written in the fate of the cosmos itself. Our universe is expanding, and that expansion is accelerating. Billions upon billions of years from now, galaxies will be pushed so far apart that their light will no longer reach one another. The universe will grow cold, dark, and profoundly lonely. In this distant epoch, the density of matter and energy will be so low that the concept of resource competition becomes meaningless. There will be nothing left to fight over and no one close enough to fight with. Hiding will no longer be necessary because expansion itself will become physically impossible. The dark forest, in a sense, would end not with a resolution but with a fading sigh as the last embers of intelligence flicker out in an ever-cooling void. The silence would finally become natural rather than strategic. These are visions for a far future, timelines measured in billions of years, far beyond the scope of any human concern. For the foreseeable cosmic epoch, the epoch in which we find ourselves alive and wondering, the dark forest likely remains the default state of the galaxy. The sheer age of the universe suggests that if a leviathan or a mass ascension were going to happen, it might have already occurred. The persistent silence implies it has not. Therefore, our practical goal cannot be to end the forest. That is a dream for epochs we will never see. Our goal must be far more immediate and humble, to learn to navigate it without becoming prey. We must master the art of cosmic survival within the rules as they currently exist. This means cultivating a new kind of wisdom, one that values silence over proclamation, caution over curiosity, and longevity over glory. It is a sobering mandate for a young and noisy species, a call to grow up quickly and to look at the starry night not as an invitation, but as a lesson we are only beginning to read. The forest may not be forever, but it is for now, and our future depends on understanding the difference. Our journey through the silent implications of the dark forest theory leaves us at a profound crossroads of understanding. We have traced the chilling chain of suspicion, from the axioms of survival to the logic of the preemptive strike, and explored the staggering lengths a civilization might go to become invisible. This perspective does not claim to be a proven map of reality, but it offers a stark and internally consistent answer to the universe's great silence. It reframes the cosmos from a frontier awaiting our greeting into a realm that demands our deepest humility and caution. The theory's power lies not in proving aliens are hostile, but in demonstrating how easily a universe of strangers, each acting in rational self-interest, could become a forest of shadows. Whether this is our actual reality remains unknown, but the possibility alone carries immense weight. It shifts the fundamental question from "are we alone?" to what is the safest way to exist in a cosmos we do not yet understand. This is not a call for fear, but for a new kind of cosmic maturity. It suggests that the pinnacle of a civilization's advancement may not be measured by the strength of its signals, but by the depth of its patience and the perfection of its restraint. The most important discovery we could make might be the wisdom to stop searching for others and start mastering the art of being unseen. Our future among the stars may depend less on our courage to speak and more on our collective discipline to listen. The dark forest, whether literal or metaphorical, teaches a timeless lesson about the value of quiet observation in a universe of infinite unknowns. If this exploration of cosmic survival has reshaped how you see the night sky, we would love to hear your perspective in the comments. For more journeys to the edge of understanding, subscribe and join us as we continue to unravel the universe's greatest mysteries. And as you look up at the stars tonight, remember that in the grand tapestry of existence, the most profound truths are often held in silence, waiting for those wise enough to understand the value of the dark.